Welcome to a new video. Today's video, we're going to talk about priming epoxy floors and why we need to be applying a primer on the floor before we apply the coating. So the whole topic of today's video is applying primer and epoxy floors. And we're just going to get started now. Here's a picture of someone applying a primer. So the floor has been ground, has been cleaned, and now we are applying a primer before we apply the coating. And many people ask, well, do I need to apply a primer? Should we be priming? And in this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should be priming. I know there's some people that argue that you should not, there's no need to prime. I don't agree with them. I belong in the you must be priming camp. And let's go straight to the first reason, and the most important reason. You want the epoxy to stick to the floor. So by priming, you will increase the chances of bonding. This is what happens when you don't do a good job with the floor. Here we see a disaster basically. The epoxy was peeling off. Why? Because the person that applied this coating never applied a primer on the substrate. So all the epoxy just started to peel. Another disaster story is you want to be avoiding these problems, and by priming you are doing a very good step. You're taking a very good step in avoiding these problems. I'm not saying you will eliminate these problems. What I'm saying is by priming you will be eliminating the chances of something going wrong, like the coating peeling off the floor. The number 2 reason why you should be priming is by priming you do reduce the emergence of bubbles. This is very important. Here's a picture of bubbles. Especially when you have thicker coatings like self-leveling floors, you really want to prime. By priming, you're going to seal off the concrete. Now, please remember, there are many reasons why that will cause bubbles in floors. In fact, you can click on the links now to have a look at the reasons that may cause bubbles in floors. But priming is an important reason. So make sure if you are priming and sealing the floor off properly, that will reduce the chances of bubbles emerging in your floor. And as I said, you can just click on the article or on the video to learn more about this subject. The third reason why I always recommend priming is because by priming you get a good feel for the floor. How can I explain this? Here's an example of a floor that's just been primed. By priming a floor, you kind of get to know the floor better. It starts showing you its weak sides and its good sides. Here was an old floor, an old concrete floor. You can see all these cracks and all these funny colors. When we actually ground the floor, you can see all these things. But by priming, all these problems in the floor became visible. So you kind of get an idea of how this floor is behaving and what you can do to improve it and what we have to look out for before we apply the next coating. Had we applied the coating straight away, all of a sudden we'd see all these problems and we'd be wondering, what do we do now? That's why by applying a primer, here's another picture. Again, you can see how by applying that primer, all these possible problems came to the forefront and we knew then how to deal with the next step. So very important reason, you always get a good feel for the floor. You get to know your floor better or your substrate better just by applying a primer. The fourth reason why I recommend applying a primer is you actually spend less product on the actual coating and less consumption. Here's a nice little diagram. What happens is when you don't apply a primer and you apply the first coating, a lot of that coating will be absorbed by the substrate, and you may have to add multiple coats just to make the floor look nice. So where you might have thought you're saving money but by not applying a primer, you're actually going to spend more money because you're going to end up applying more coats, or you're going to have a higher consumption per coat. So by applying a primer, you kind of seal off the surface, and that will actually save you money for the next steps, for the next coats on top of the primer. So by applying a primer, let me just remind you, you do reduce absorption, you reduce consumption of the following coatings. For example, the epoxy top coat or the self-leveling coating or whatever you can apply after the primer. And finally, by applying the primer, you do eliminate dust. And I'll show you a picture. This is a project we recently completed. It was a very dusty substrate, very, very difficult to work in. And what we actually did was when we actually started applying the primer, the dust was immediately eliminated. So by applying the primer, obviously you have to, as we see in this picture, you have to use a vacuum cleaner to collect the dust first. By applying the primer, we kind of eliminated the dust, and then it was possible to proceed on to the next steps. It really does help reduce the dust, so you can then actually go to work on the real floor, which is the actual coatings and the top coats you want to be applying. So if you're ever in doubt, should I prime, should I not prime, always prime. That's my advice. And make sure that the primer goes in the floor, in the substrate, in the concrete. You don't want to just like float it on top. You want to make sure the primer's purpose is to penetrate the substrate. It needs to go inside the substrate to make it bond better with the concrete. Now, if you enjoyed this presentation, please take a moment and like it, share, leave a comment. It just helps us spread the word and helps me keep on doing what I'm doing with these videos. So please share these videos. It definitely helps me. And remember, if you want to learn more about us, you can visit the website on top for our products. We are based in Greece. We ship to most of Europe, Africa, Middle East, and Asia. www.ctcs.eu. And if you want to learn more about epoxy training and our articles, you can learn about our online course, LearnCoatings.com. That's what you'll learn about our courses and on our training, and lots of articles. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already, because you learn a lot of things and you can be updated whenever we bring out a new video. So thank you very much for watching. I look forward to hear from you.